Hello and welcome to the post-match reaction for Celtic Motherwell with a Celtic State of Mind. My name's Laura Bradburn. I'm joined by Lawrence Connolly. How you doing, Lawrence, after that 90 minutes?
Relieved, happy. You know, threadbare squad. 1-0's never comfortable, is it? You know, they're always in it, but we missed a good few chances in that. You know, I wouldn't say it was... I think we've had a few games like that. We've had loads of chances, but only maybe taken one or two of them. Today was just another one where we're not converting our chances. So good to see it. Hopefully James is okay. You know, we move on. It's Ross County Wednesday night, but yeah, we're dead in our feet by the end of it, weren't we? You know, if you're attacking subs, bring on Tony and push Juranovic further forward. It just kind of shows we don't have a lot of options at the moment.
We are joined obviously not just by Lawrence but by Stephen from Endless Celts, who joins us now. How you doing, Stephen? How was that second half for you?
Oh, topsy-turvy, a bit stop-start, wasn't it? To be honest, it was just one of them games. We grounded out, we got the win and got the 3 points, and that's all that counts on the Ross County on Wednesday night. Yeah,
just about. Lawrence, there was 2 or 3 chances very, very quickly after the second half started, each of which we could have taken and really saw the game off pretty quickly. I would say that's a kind of running feature of our games at the moment, as we are creating the chances, no bother, it's taking them that seems to be the issue, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. We should, you know, the first 10 minutes of that second half should definitely been at least 2 up.
Yeah.
You know, I think when you don't get the second goal, the other team know they're still in it, don't they? They just need a wee bit of luck and they can pull it back. But, you know, we're threadbare, but it's 3 points. That's all we were asking about the game. Get us the 3 points. Some well-worked moves from the training ground, even if the ref doesn't understand some of them. You know, it's just like, come on, ref.
It was a bit of a strange one, that one. I think David Turnbull's kind of looking at him though, as though, do you actually know the rules? It's like, it was so weird. Stephen, I'm going to take the opportunity just because I have been harsh on him in recent weeks, but Mikey Johnston, again, before he came off for Ralston, I think it was, had a decent second half, a couple of good chances, a good shot and a good header that spring to mind. Do you think he's just short in confidence and that's it? Do you see him slightly becoming on the road back to the Mikey Johnston that we knew before?
Well, I hope he's not injured, first and foremost. Going off for Ralston, let's hope it's not an injury. But, I mean, I don't want to be, obviously, get ahead of myself. Mikey Johnston, there's no doubt in the talent that he has. It's all about him putting a consistent run of games together. And if he's took off because of an injury, then there's another breakdown in terms of his fitness. But he did play well when he was on. He'd come on, obviously. I thought his header was a good one. Obviously, a good save by Liam Kelly. He laid on. He played the ball simple. He very rarely took on his man, but that's what I'm used to seeing Johnston doing, taking a player on, eliminating the player, getting in the box and getting the shot off himself. I think Lawrence alluded to the fact when he first broke through, that's the kind of thing he was doing. He does seem short of confidence. He seems like lacking a wee yard of pace as well. I don't know if that comes with fitness and a run of games, but I do hope he comes good with Celtic. But I think time's just run out for him. That's me being honest.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it, Lawrence? Because it's one of those situations where we're perhaps giving him a lot more breaks and a lot more chances than we would if he was, you know, a 23, 24-year-old player from another country. I don't even think he's that old, actually, to be honest. Is time running out for him, or is there enough in that performance today? I think there might have been enough in that performance today to suggest that there's still some kind of future here for him.
Listen, I think it was a better performance than his last one, potentially, but that's areas of the park we're looking at strengthening. So, you know, become January, it could be taking out his hands. We could be buying players for those positions, and then it's going to be harder for him to get minutes again. But where we are just now, he's just got to look to Tony Ralston and go, well, look, there's not a lot of fit players there. I should be starting. I just need to take the opportunities presented to me. That header, I thought he was unlucky with. You know, decent header, a couple of shots. Sub was a bit surprising for me. You know, to shove Juranovic further forward. I thought maybe Hendo on. You know, Henderson on for Johnson if Johnson was struggling at the time. And maybe even Tony on for Juranovic, because Juranovic had a few slack balls today. But, you know, the last 10, 15 minutes, that's when Anne's been doing his triple sub thing, you know, to give us a bit of freshness. And we just didn't have it on the bench to do that, did we? We didn't have that kind of listen to compression things up and keep the tempo going. Was that affected by the lack of noise in the ground? I don't know. There was a bit of singing now and again. I think some of the fans tried it in the last 10 minutes. You could see the team was knackered. We tend to go, didn't they? You know, they're trying to lift them. But it's 3 points. You know, sometimes you get games like this when you don't take the chances. The main thing is getting the 3 points.
That really is the main thing, and we'll go on to the singing issue a little bit later on, which I do want to get your guys' opinions on. Alex Shund on YouTube says whoever comes in January had better be able to put the ball in the net, and also made another comment earlier, just sort of saying Rogic was a handful on his own. He certainly was that. Stephen, what did you make of Rogic's performance? Obviously playing a slightly unusual role for him, slightly further forward with a little bit more responsibility in an attacking sense. Did he pull that off for you today?
I think he's a dancer and a footballer's top, isn't he? He's fantastic when he gets the ball to his feet. There's 3 players around him, but there was a point in the second half, 4 players closing down. He took the ball away from them. That's the type of player he is. Obviously, he doesn't have the blister in place to play up front like Kyogo. We all know that, but he did his job, I think, effectively. He laid the ball on. He brought players into play that coming into the box and things like that. There was one chance in the second half he should have scored for me. He does kind of try to flash it across the goal instead of putting his foot for it. That would have been a cracking team goal. Tom Rogic, he was out the door, wasn't he, under Lenny? He wasn't really there to be seen. There was rumours he was going to Qatar for £4 million or whatever the quota fee was at that time. But I'm just so glad that Ange Postecoglou's come in and revitalised him, because what a player Tom Rogic is. And when he plays like that for Celtic, he's unplayable, in my opinion.
Yeah, he absolutely is. If we talk about players and their future at the club and all that kind of thing, and maybe being premature to write them off, I guess Lawrence, Rogic is a case study for why you shouldn't write a player off if the circumstances are right, if the coaching's right, if the environment's right. They can be made to show their full potential. Some might argue Rogic is having one of his best seasons in a Celtic shirt.
I think so. It's probably no coincidence he's worked with Ange before. You know. I think pre-season he wasn't getting a lot of games, but you know, we had a chat about it on here and said, well, Ange doesn't really need to see what Tom Rogic's got. He knows him better than all the rest of the players in the squad. You know, he's now a 90-minute player. He's always had that skill. I think it comes from his futsal days, but now he's been able to put in 90-minute performances, which is brilliant for us, especially when we don't have any other options to bring on. you know, but yeah. But looking at his performance, he could have had a hat-trick today. You're looking at him going, actually, that boy should really have, he scored one, but he should have had another couple. But it's 3 points. Well, another game closer to the transfer window opening and hopefully addressing some of the squad's shortcomings.
That is certainly something we need to get to, and until we get to then, it is about grinding out the results, I think, especially with the injuries we're facing. That's the top and bottom of it, isn't it, Stephen? That today was not a glamorous victory. You would argue it's certain parts of the second half, it really wasn't a very fun game to watch, but at the end of the day, we've come away with the 3 points, and that's all that matters, really.
Well, winning the points and winning the league, that's what Celtic need to do. They need to keep up this kind of momentum. Obviously, we all want Celtic to play the free-flowing fast football that Postecoglou likes to play, but in these games, Motherwell came to stifle us. They were strong, they were physical. I mean, every part of that pitch, they were throwing in tackles left, right and centre, and I think the referee kept his cards in his pockets for a few, but we've already discussed that. But, I mean, like, these type of games is the games last season we would have failed seeing out. We're seeing out games now, which is good to see. The back four, I like seeing it because it looks like the first choice back four going forward. I think Lawrence is right to point out Juranovic did make some sloppy decisions, but again, he was playing the left basically all his Celtic career up until the last couple of games, so he's probably again getting used to another position, playing that in front of fullback role. I think all in all, Laura, like the 3 points is most important. Like glamorous football will come. I can see it. It just needs to click again, and we'll be ripping teams apart like we were at the early part of the season. But just for now, keep the winning going, keep the pressure on them at the top of the table, and then come into the game in the 2nd of January. Hopefully we're in touch and distance of them.
Yeah, I think you've both summed it up really well there. It's just a case of, if we come out of December with more victories than draws or losses, and we're sitting still within touching distance of the top of the table and the title at the end of the season, nobody's going to be looking back saying, "I bet they were boring games" or whatever. It's about getting those points. Something else I wanted to move on to pretty quickly, just because I think it's a discussion that needs to be had, is the protests that are going on with certain fan groups around the potential appointment of Bernard Higgins. Now, I don't think anybody in this chat or anybody on this show needs reminded why those protests are happening. There's obviously a lot of dissatisfaction. That's probably a mild word to use for the potential appointment of this person to Celtic and the role that they may undertake, given their history with them bringing in laws against football fans in Scotland. If any of you haven't been aware, the last couple of games, some of the fan groups have been staging what they've called a silent protest, where they are not singing or not leading the singing in the stadium. And that happened again today. Lawrence, I'll come to you first on it. First of all, I don't think anybody's in disagreement about the need for the board to be made aware of Celtic fans' dissatisfaction with the potential appointment, but where do you stand on the method of protest and how it's being carried out?
Well, I'll remember, the 90s where it was, back the team, sack the board. And this, I think, is not on message with that slogan. I think it'd be better if we could keep on message with that slogan. But, there were some fans that were singing there. I suppose, fans can make that, if you want to back the protest, you don't make noise. If you want to, I don't think it's anti-protest if you want to sing. Maybe you just want to back the team and that's why you're singing. It's as long as the fans kind of don't start turning on each other and having a go for not singing or singing. As much as they're allowed to make a protest, other people are allowed to sing to back the team. So, the word in the street is that Higgins isn't coming now. So, are a protest necessarily? I don't know. Celtic aren't very good at communicating to fans, are they? It's poor. The board could come out and make it clear. If he's not coming now, just come out and make that clear. And I think that would probably stop the protest. Whether they would fully engage the fans with the board, I doubt. But at least it would stop this. And it's a needless distraction for me at this time of the year, especially, threadbare squad, injury crisis, really hectic schedule of games. We need to take full points every game. Do we need this on top of it? Could they have another way of protesting? Without doubt. But this is the way they want to protest. They've got to be free to protest. I don't think the government's made it illegal yet to protest. But I'm not too sure the Celtic board would want to make it illegal to protest in the stadium. But yeah, they feel aggrieved. And I think it's just the board really need to communicate with the fans. If he's not coming, just come out and say it. It would just diffuse the situation, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it would do a lot to diffuse the situation. Obviously, there's probably reasons why or why not they're choosing to make that statement, and I'm sure there's a lot of reasons behind that. Paul Cockwell, who I think is a Hibby, if I remember correctly, says, "I'll join in Sunshine on Leith at the Cup final." Something, I'm not a Hibs fan by any stretch of the imagination, but outside Celtic songs, I think that's probably about the best song sung by any fan base in football. So
I heard you were singing it during the Cup final a few years back.
You're not supposed to reveal these things live on air, Lawrence, but I'll let you away with it. Stephen, it's a good point that Lawrence brings up, and something I totally agree with is I don't have a problem with the manner of the protest in terms of that it's a peaceful protest, as long as nobody's doing anything silly. That's all right in my book. Where I do have a problem is those people who have previously agreed to that protest suggesting that other people should join in on it or other people should affect the way that they take in the game because of it. Where's your feelings, A, on the protest and the need for it, and B, how it's being carried out?
Well, I mean, this stems back. The Celtic board silence is quite a thing that we're all used to now. I mean, it stems back years, but more recently, Dominic Mackay left. We barely got nothing in that situation. Michael Nicholson has been the acting CEO, but apparently permanent CEO. Again, silence from him as well. And then this Bernard Higgins thing is one that puts the cherry on top of the cake, doesn't it really? I mean, the silence from the Celtic board is a thing that I have a major issue with. And if the supporters groups want to get involved in the protest, by all means do it. Everyone has the right to voice an opinion, or otherwise be quiet on an opinion. I mean, you look at it, you can see it on the pitch. You can't see it. There's no singing that you're used to from the fans. There's no big chorus from supporters on all sections. If one section starts singing, it lasts for about 10 seconds, then it drops off. But for me, this is the board's fault. This all falls on them. At the end of the day, the Celtic fans should be involved in decision making within the club, I think, because they put their money in. They pay their hard-earned money every year, back them with season tickets, back them with merchandise sales. We put money into that club year in, year out. And the fact that the board can't come out to say, as Lawrence says, I totally agree with it, and say, look, this isn't happening, and announce an appointment of someone else. That's all that needs to happen. Or just say the recruitment process is still ongoing, but this person's not being considered. Even don't allude to his name. Something like that. Something simple, Laura. And what bothers me the most as well, when Celtic supporters get awards, who's the first to come out and praise them? The Celtic board. And they take full credit for it. But when Celtic fans want answers and stuff, it's silence. And for me, that shouldn't be happening at a football club like Celtic.
No, I totally agree with what you're saying there. I think there needs to be a bit more cohesion between the board and the fans, and sort of communication there, which we've all been banging on about for, it feels like, forever now. Brian Walsh comes in on YouTube, says it might be a peaceful protest, but the silence plays into the opposition's hands. It's clueless stuff from fans groups protest outside the ground. The board won't comment on speculation. It's an interesting thing, Lawrence, because I do agree with that. I'm saying that on the one hand, I don't have a problem with the protest because it's peaceful. That's the only way in which I don't have a problem with it. I do believe you should be able to sing. I do believe you should be able to back the team if you want to do that. Do you think that by not singing, the fans groups are playing into the opposition's hands? Do you think we're giving them an advantage should the protest be kept for outside of the 90 minutes?
Listen, we talk about, being the 12th man, about the extra energy we give players on the pitch. So we can't have it that way and then say, being silent isn't affecting. I think it's definitely having an effect. It's not the way I'd choose to protest, but others are, it's a peaceful protest. They're free to choose how they want to protest. For me, I think, when the players are on the pitch, you should be backing them 100%. Anything you can do to help them, you should. I'm not going to kind of say, listen, if you've chose a peaceful protest that doesn't agree with my way of protesting, that's still fine. That's the way they want to protest. But, it does come down to the Celtic board just being able to come out and kind of clarify what the situation's like. The team, I think we're ahead of where we expected to be at this point in the season under a new manager, under the rebuild. To have something like this distracting from it, there's no positives for anyone in it, I don't think. So I'd rather have found another way, but they're free to choose if that's the way they want to protest. It wouldn't be the way I would choose to. What I would have a problem with is if some people are singing and people want to shout at them for singing, you're like, it's your decision to stay silent. And conversely, if people are staying silent and people are giving them abuse for staying silent, they're like, well, no, they don't need to sing. It's when it starts kind of being a problem between fans and the ground, it's really bad. But yeah, I think it's having an effect on the team. But we still managed to get 3 points. And hopefully, although I don't hold out much hope for the Celtic board, hopefully they can come up with some kind of resolution. I know the fans group have said, look, we'll call it off if we can have a meeting, meet them halfway, or just make the statement. Because, the rumours are going around that he's going to UEFA now. He's not coming to Celtic. So if he's not coming to Celtic, surely the board can see, normally we don't comment on speculation, but at this point, it's having an adverse effect on the team. Let's just clear this up.
I think that's the thing, isn't it, Stephen? We don't know the legalities behind, why they will or won't make a statement, but they don't need to address anybody specifically when they make the statement. Yeah. They could just come out and say, I don't know, any speculation over appointments to Celtic are unfounded or something a bit of that nature. I think doing that, like Lawrence says, it's all in their hands. They could immediately kill off all these protests for better or worse within 2 minutes.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there. And another thing as well, we always praise Postecoglou's effect and separating the football matters from what's going on upstairs. But the unfortunate thing is, as Lawrence alluded to, if this keeps continuing and these protests keep going, it will seep into the football side of things because it does affect the team. I'm not saying like I said earlier, they can protest whatever they want, sign a protest, but I think Lawrence is right. If other fans start singing, don't be shouting them down. At the end of the day, we're all supporting Celtic Football Club. The board should see this, and they should be like, this is affecting everything around it. Just come out, and as you said, Laura, don't mention his name specifically. Just be like, all speculations surrounding an appointment is untrue. We're not close to an appointment. We're continuing the search, blah, blah, blah. Case closed. And if he's going to the UEFA, even better. But the clarification from Celtic's board needs to come out. Otherwise, these protests are going to continue week in, week out.
Yeah, it seems for the foreseeable future anyway that may be the case, and regardless of what happens going forward, we just hope that Celtic fans, young or old, are able to go to games and celebrate their team in whatever way they see fit, whether it's under the view of other Celtic fans or other organisations. Looking at the games coming up, Lawrence, we've got a very tricky sort of... Not necessarily tricky, but just kind of inconvenient trip up to Dingwall in the middle of this week to play Ross County. With an already threadbare squad, do you see having to do that travelling and all that kind of stuff having an adverse effect on us?
I think we're used to it. The way it's going to affect us adversely is what we can do in the training park, let's be honest. You've got a couple of days out travelling. We're probably not going to be doing too much field contact in the training park, but the amount of injuries we've got, we just can't risk anything. So maybe more work in set pieces. Perhaps get the refs in and say, look, see if he touches it outside of the arc. That's the ball in play, right? This is how that works at the corners. So that's something we've worked on in training. So if it happens during the game and it's within the rules, just going to let us get on with it. I don't know. But yeah, it's just nuts, isn't it? But yeah, it's inconvenient, but it's major that we get 3 points here. 3 points sets us up well for the cup final. Cup final should take care of itself. It's a big occasion. But, if Ange gets his first trophy as Celtic manager in the bag, it'll be great. Very much like Wim Janssen, with the Coca-Cola Cup there over at Poundland that season. So, yeah, be amazing.
You're absolutely on fire, Lawrence, today. I'll give you that. Stephen, it is a big week for us. Listen, a game against Ross County is never a given, but you would hope that we're going to come out of that with 3 points to set us up going into the cup final on a positive, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is. Usually it's a game we don't worry about. I think Ross County usually takes care of itself, whether it's in Celtic Park or Dingwall, but it's just the injuries, isn't it, Laura? You don't know who you're going to play, who's going to start. Forrest has come off. What way is that going to affect? If Johnson took a knock, then we're literally down to bones of the squad. You're talking Henderson coming in or Abada playing for the middle. That's all going to change again. It's a game that, for this run of fixtures, I can't accept anything less than a victory. I think we need to keep the momentum going. We need to keep winning. And if we drop off and lose a couple of points here and there, then the other team's going to take advantage of it. So, I mean, that's the way it looks at the minute. So we need to keep our side of things going and not rely on other fixtures to see us through. That's the key thing for me. The cup final, as Lawrence said, it's a big occasion. Hampden, Postecoglou's first time at winning the trophy for Celtic. I think it should take care of itself. I'm confident for that game, but I mean, the Ross County one, it could be a potential banana skin, but you have to remain positive and hopefully go up there and claim all 3 points.
Yeah, I think it's a must-win for us. The only thing that does annoy me about it is it's such a long way to travel and you don't know what the weather's going to be like and all that kind of thing. So it's going to be an interesting one. I think if we come out of that with 3 points, it's going to mean a little bit more than any normal 3 points against Ross County does, especially, like you say, with the threadbare squad that we've got at the moment. Hopefully James Forrest's apparent injury won't be as serious as it first appeared. And hopefully, even if it does, Mikey Johnston can continue on his upward trajectory after today. Looking ahead at the cup final, Lawrence, Ange is no stranger to cup finals. He's a successful manager. He's won trophies elsewhere, not least at international level with Australia. Do you see him? This is maybe a silly question. Do you see him changing his approach whatsoever for the final, or is he going to just play the way Ange plays?
Listen, there's no silly questions, only silly answers. So
well, go for it.
Have a chat with Fran Alonso, who's just won the cup with the ladies team, who won 7-0 today. And say, Fran, any advice, mate? But Ange will take this in his stride. He's come out and said he's not going to change his philosophy. He needs a result every week, and this is his best way of getting the result. And I think it's in the squad. We touched on it at half time. Even though we didn't have a recognised striker in the pack, we could still see the team's identity. We could still see the pressing. Where it got a bit harder was the last 15 minutes when there was a lot of tired bodies out there and we didn't have enough on the bench to freshen things up like we'd want to. And I honestly thought, if Johnson's off because of an injury, maybe Ralston on and Henderson, take Juranovic off. But saying that, in the first kind of couple of minutes, Juranovic put across a cracking ball. So what do I know?
No, he did look good, and I always think he does look good in the attacking positions. Stephen, I'll ask you as well. I mean, the final is a bit of a strange one. I've still never really got used to these December Cup finals. They're a welcome surprise. Obviously, took the last year's one in with Lawrence and with Paul John on the charity weekender, and that was a bit of history in Celtic's books. What do you see for us against Hibs at Hampden on the weekend? Is it going to be a tight affair, do you think? Or do you think if we stick to what we're doing, obviously taking into account injuries, can we win this quite comfortably?
Well, first of all, the only kind of bugbear I have that we're going to be a game behind in the league, which puts us further behind if the other team takes advantage of it in terms of a points total. But the game itself against Hibs, I mean, I like Celtic playing at Hampden. I think Bertie Auld summed it up perfectly, saying it was like a training ground. They've played there so many times, and it's kind of still the case, isn't it? Obviously, winning the quadruple treble, that kind of thing. But I mean, get into the game, regardless of injuries, I expect it to be an open game of both sides. I mean, I know they sacked Jack Ross, but I don't think they're going to kind of drastically change the way they play. And they like try and play a ball from the back, through the middle, through the lines, and obviously if Doyes and all's playing as a physical presence up front, I expect goals, but I do expect Celtic to come away with a victory, comfortable. If I had to make an early prediction now, I'd be like 4-2, 4-1, that type of thing. I know me and Lawrence's predictions today were so far off the mark, it was crazy, but just go with me on that one. I like going to Hampden. I think the pitch is big, it suits us, wide players especially. The midfield, Rodgers can take advantage of the spaces. So all in all, I'm expecting a really good game.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever far off the mark predicting a high-scoring match with Ange. I think today was an exception, but yeah, I think a 4-1, 4-2 could be on the cards against Hibs, and I'm willing to go with that. To close out the coverage today, just wanted to take the last few minutes to talk a little bit about another successful ex-Celtic manager. That was Ronnie Deila, who we spoke about earlier on in the match coverage. If you missed it, or any of the extremely graphic videos on Twitter over the last 24 hours, he won the MLS Cup for New York City FC, which I believe was their first major trophy. He was very emotional about it. He obviously had some bets that he had to cash in on that front. Stephen, I'll come back to you first on this one before I come to Lawrence. Ronnie's time at Celtic wasn't absolutely outstanding on the pitch, but he still won trophies for us. He's still remembered very fondly. What are your memories of his time at Celtic and what he's gone on to achieve in New York?
I took the rally. I know obviously at the time the league was weaker and stuff, and he should have took advantage of maybe winning the treble and stuff like that. And obviously the Rangers game comes to mind in terms of the things that kind of went wrong from the Celtic. But he won 2 league titles. Was it Scottish Cup or League Cup? Forgive me if I forget that one. But I mean, for me, Rodgers came in and he alluded to the fact that he laid lots of the groundwork for him in terms of fitness, that type of thing. He laid all that kind of framework for him. And Ronnie and the fans had a connection, much like we see with Ange at the minute. And look at the connection now; it's probably even stronger than ever. He doesn't even manage Celtic Football Club, and it just points to the fact that he remains, in my eyes, a good Celtic manager. As you say, it wasn't brilliant all the time, but he still came away with 2 league titles. He's went to New York, and by all accounts, he's won their first major trophy ever, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And alongside assistant manager Efren Juarez, the Neil Lennon side, the Mexican guy. So, I mean, there's a Celtic connection there, and it's brilliant to see. He was crying at the end of the game, and he still does the Ronnie roar, which I think he kind of made over here, the Aberdeen game, when he went up to the fans that day. I don't get the whole thing. And what annoyed me, I woke up this morning and I seen a newspaper headline basically alluding Ronnie's ripped the Celtic wrongs right by winning this trophy with New York. And I was like, what are you talking about? He won two league championships with Celtic, do you know what I mean? Albeit that he wasn't one of our best managers in history, but he's still done it. And by the way, some of them players that played under him went on under Rodgers to play final roles, and the season's come ahead. So I have really good memories of Ronnie.
Yeah, absolutely. So that, it was one of those situations a bit like Ange where you just like him as a person. You just like how he represents the football club, and I think that over everything was vital. I have to say I'm a bit heart sore at the Ronnie Roar getting performed. It's a little bit like seeing your ex-boyfriend take their new girlfriend to a restaurant that they used to take you to. Do you know what I mean? But we'll not go into that.
No, I agree with you there,
never far away for that, Lawrence. Fair enough. What was your memories, Lawrence, of Ronnie, and what's his legacy at Celtic? Why do you think he's held in such high esteem by fans to this day?
I think we can all agree he should have won a treble if it wasn't for, I don't know, what was a 3 assistant linesmen or something at that time. And we were all sighted but simultaneously blinking when the ball was handled, some such reason. But what is it? Put the groundwork in. We've got McGregor. We had Tierney for a while. He was willing to give young players a chance. He put a system in. And I think the main reason it doesn't work, a lot of the pros that like to have chips rather than a proper diet kind of turned against him, which was the main thing that went against him. So, yeah, I've got fond memories of Rory as a coach. The fact that he started to give the young boys a chance again, something that we hadn't really seen young boys come through and been successful. Stephen's touched on it. Roger said he was lucky because we only had to add a few good players because the groundwork had been put in for him. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it's no exaggeration to say either that a lot of the work that Brendan was able to do was built on what Ronnie had done as well. So it's all sort of melding into one. And the Celtic also, connection's strange. Sorry, Stephen.
If I'm not mistaken, it was Ronnie that signed Dembele on a pre-contract in January, wasn't it, from Fulham?
I think so. Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah. So there you go.
He knows a player, is what we're saying. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the Celtic connection with Efrain Juarez is great as well. Obviously didn't make much of an impact on the pitch, but again, seems to have fallen in love with the club and have it in his blood, as so many ex-Celts do. But we're going to leave it there anyway. We will be back for the usual weekly bulletins from 12:30 every weekday on ACSOM. Stephen, thanks for joining us. You're on Endless Celts. Where can people find and listen to your podcast, and when does it come out?
Well, it comes out every Tuesday and Friday. We record on the Monday and Thursday. Find us on YouTube. We're video now like this. We used to be audio, but we moved up in the world like you guys. Endless Celts podcast, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. That's where you find us. Endless Celts podcast. Simple and easy, Laura.
I don't know about you, but I think our viewing figures took a hit when people started seeing our faces, but,
That's why I keep it dark in my room. They're not afflicted that way. But remember, the fundraising's still on for St Mary's, the parish that gave us Celtic, and a bit of fiscal trouble. So there's auction items on eBay. Have a look at them, give what you can, and hopefully we can help Cannon White and St Mary's out.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Totally seconded on that. Thank you for reminding everybody that, Lawrence, that it is all still there for you to bid on. Remember, it all goes to such a good cause for a parish and a church that helps so many in their community, as well as needing a little bit of extra help to keep their own doors open. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Another Celtic victory. On to the next one, and we will see you again on Monday for the Bulletin.